Heights with you. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome back to another daily tribal sovereignty report. Today is Thursday, June 11th. Where did this week fly by? Hola. Our top story this morning comes from our friends and relatives north of us. The First Nations leaders in British Columbia and Ontario are condemning the Canadian Senate. Now, what did they do? The Senate just voted down amendments to Bill C-9, which would have criminalized residential school denialism. This is the act of downplaying or denying the historical abuse of Indigenous children in boarding schools. Now, why does this matter to tribes? Well, these schools caused deep, multi-generational trauma. Denying it distorts history and hurts survivors. Now, why does it matter to sovereignty? Well, sovereignty includes educational and cultural sovereignty. Tribal nations have the absolute right to tell their own story and to tell their own history and have their truths protected by law. So good luck up there. We hope that there is some resolution on such a very hurtful and traumatizing time in Indigenous history. In New Mexico, the land back movement just took a giant step forward. The U.S. House passed the Albuquerque Indian School Act, which transfers 3 tracts of land back to a federal trust for the area's 19 sovereign pueblos. Why does this matter to the pueblos? This land was once a forced assimilation boarding school. Now, tribes are turning a place of historical pain into an economic and cultural complex. Why does this matter to sovereignty? Well, this is land sovereignty in action. A nation cannot fully govern or be independent without physical control over its own homelands. Next, a shift in public school cafeterias across Virginia, Maryland, and North Carolina. Schools are partnering with the traditional Eastern Woodlands Foodways Alliance to pilot Indigenous-inspired menus designed by Native chefs. Why does this matter to tribes? Well, for decades, government commodity foods replaced healthy traditional diets with survival rations. This brings traditional foods like wild rice and wild game back to our youth. Why does it matter to sovereignty? This advances food sovereignty. That is the power of a community to feed itself without relying on outside forces, while keeping agricultural dollars in the tribal economy. In clean energy news, a new study shows that First Nations-owned clean energy projects are leading Canada's green transition. Instead of outside utility companies crossing tribal lands, nations like the Gitineau Nation are using tribal laws to build and own their own energy grids. Why does this matter to tribes? Its revenue stays in the community and creates high-paying technical jobs for Native youth. Why does it matter to sovereignty? Well, this is energy sovereignty and workforce development. When you control the grids, you control the power and the future of your nation's economy. All right, sports and gaming. The New Mexico Attorney General is suing an online betting platform called Kalshi, joining a fight started by several pueblos. The app is allegedly allowing illegal sports gaming on tribal lands. Why does this matter to tribes? Tribal casinos fund schools, roads, and health clinics. Outside apps bypass tribal regulations and drain those funds. Why does it matter to sovereignty? This is about economic sovereignty. Under federal law, tribes have the exclusive right to regulate gaming within their borders. Outside tech firms cannot just bypass tribal governments. And we have a major update on this gaming battle developing right here out of the state of California. 3 major California tribes, including the Blue Lake, Chicken Ranch, and Paquion Rancherias, are locked in a federal lawsuit against tech platforms Kalshi and Robinhood. The tribes argue these companies are running revenue-draining, illegal gambling directly on reservation lands. We have 2 recent legal developments from the courts. First, a federal judge recently denied a tribal request to halt the app in California, ruling that these are financial contracts regulated by revenues, not state gambling laws. Second, just weeks ago, the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals rejected a tribal request to fast-track their case with a similar lawsuit out of Nevada. That means the California appeal is stuck in a separate, slower track. Why does this matter to tribes? California tribes are the revenue blueprint. Their legal papers laid the groundwork for the New Mexico tribes to fight back, cognizant of the compact violations. Why does this matter to sovereignty? Well, this is a jurisdictional war. It pits economic sovereignty and the Indian Gaming Regulatory Act against federal financial regulators. If the tech companies win, it could strip tribes of their exclusive gaming rights nationwide. So yes, we will definitely be keeping track of that as we go forward on this very, very important topic. All right, let's celebrate Tribal Hollywood. The Navajo Nation is celebrating 3 Emmy nominations for 2 entirely Navajo language productions: Cleaning's A Cakewalk and puppet series Navajo Highways. Why does this matter to tribes? For a century, Hollywood used inaccurate stereotypes. These shows featured Navajo creators telling authentic stories in their own language. Why does this matter to sovereignty? Well, this is a narrative sovereignty. When a tribal government invests in film offices, they control their own image and preserve the language for the next generation. Finally, this morning, a critical weather warning we want to share with those of you in some of the tribal communities today. The National Weather Service has issued an enhanced level 3 risk for severe weather tonight. The storm is moving out of northeastern South Dakota, affecting the Secession Wahpeton Oyate, and pushing east into the Midwest and Great Lakes. Expect damaging winds up to 75 miles per hour, giant hail, and potential tornadoes. Good luck out there, you guys. Be safe. Tribal nations in Wisconsin, Iowa, and Illinois should monitor local alerts immediately. So again, remember, tribal nations in Wisconsin, Iowa, and Illinois, please monitor these alerts immediately. All right, that's a wrap on today's Daily Sovereignty Brief. We covered a lot of ground today, and from the jurisdictional war over online gaming in California to the historic unity of the land back movement in the Black Hills. These are not just headlines, they are living examples of tribal sovereignty in action. But a podcast is only a monologue until you chime in. So we want to hear from you. Which of these stories impacted your jurisdiction the most? Do you think tribal sovereignty will outpace federal financial regulators in the battle over betting apps? Or how is your own community implementing energy or food sovereignty? Drop your thoughts, your questions, and your takes in the comments below. Let's keep the conversation going, shall we? Let's educate each other and build a narrative sovereignty together. And don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe button and share this brief with a friend or a relative. Stay safe, stay informed, stay sovereign, and we'll see you again tomorrow.